A laugh too far. Trump and the comedians. Donald Trump loves the spotlight. He thrives on attention, whether it's positive or negative. But there's one type of attention he can't seem to handle: humor at his expense. Trump's relationship with comedians has been contentious, to say the least. From late-night talk shows to stand-up routines, comedians have always found ample material in Trump's antics. And Trump, for his part, has shown a remarkable thin skin when it comes to jokes. One of the most well-known examples of Trump's clashes with comedians involved Jimmy Kimmel. Kimmel, the host of Jimmy Kimmel Live, frequently poked fun at Trump's policies and pronouncements. Trump, rather than laughing it off, reportedly pressured Disney, ABC's parent company, to censor Kimmel. He allegedly made phone calls to the White House fuming about Kimmel's monologues and demanding that the comedian tone down his act. This attempt to use his position to silence a critic drew widespread condemnation and only fueled Kimmel's comedic fire. Trump's sensitivity to humor extended beyond late-night television. He also took aim at Stephen Colbert, the host of The Late Show. Trump, in his signature style, dismissed Colbert's jokes as Democratic Party campaign contributions, revealing his view of humor as inherently political. He seemed unable to grasp the concept of comedians simply finding him funny, instead interpreting their jokes as personal attacks orchestrated by his political opponents. Perhaps the most extreme example of Trump's inability to take a joke involved comedian Bill Maher. Maher, known for his biting political commentary, made a joke comparing Trump to an orangutan. Trump, in a move that surprised no one, sued Maher for $5 million. The lawsuit, widely seen as frivolous and ultimately unsuccessful, highlighted Trump's tendency to respond to even the slightest criticism with legal threats. Thin-skinned in the Oval Office, Trump's reactions to humor. Donald Trump's sensitivity to humor wasn't just a personal quirk, it seemed to permeate his presidency. He often reacted to jokes with a level of anger and outrage that was both remarkable and frankly a little pathetic. It was as if he couldn't understand that being laughed at is often an unavoidable part of being in the public eye, especially when you're as outrageous as Donald Trump. One recurring theme in the comedic roasting of Trump was his alleged fear of stairs. Videos of Trump carefully and awkwardly navigating stairs, often gripping the handrail for dear life, became viral sensations. Comedians, always eager to exploit a weakness, pounced on this apparent phobia, turning it into a running gag. Trump, predictably, was not amused. He reportedly raged about the jokes, seeing them as a sign of weakness and an attempt to undermine his image as a strong, virile leader. Another target of comedic mockery was Trump's relationship with his wife, Melania. Rumors about the state of their marriage had swirled for years, and comedians couldn't resist poking fun at the seemingly icy dynamic between the couple. Jimmy Kimmel, for example, joked about Trump and Melania sleeping in separate bedrooms, attributing it to Trump's loud snoring. This joke, though seemingly harmless, reportedly sent Trump into a tailspin. He apparently spent an inordinate amount of time ranting about Kimmel and other comedians who dared to mention his wife, revealing a deep-seated insecurity about his personal life. Trump's reactions to these jokes went beyond private anger. He often took to his favorite platform, Twitter, to lash out at his comedic tormentors. His tweets were often rambling, incoherent, and riddled with misspellings, but they consistently conveyed a sense of wounded pride and a desperate need to defend his ego. It was as if he couldn't bear the thought of anyone, least of all a comedian, getting the better of him. Tweeting through the tears Trump's social media feuds. Donald Trump's Twitter account was a spectacle unto itself. It was a stream of consciousness in 280 characters or less, a chaotic mix of self-promotion, attacks on his enemies, both real and imagined, and bizarre musings on whatever happened to be on his mind at that moment. And of course, it was a platform for him to air his grievances against the comedians who dared to mock him. Trump's Twitter feuds with comedians were legendary. He would often respond to jokes with insults, threats, and bizarre pronouncements about how unfunny he found them. He seemed to view Twitter as his personal arena, a place where he could hit back at his critics without the filter of aides or advisors. The result was a series of public meltdowns that were both embarrassing and strangely compelling. One memorable Twitter tirade was directed at Saturday Night Live, the long-running sketch comedy show that had been parodying Trump for decades. Trump, who had once hosted the show himself, seemed to take particular offense to their portrayal of him. He repeatedly attacked the show on Twitter, calling it unwatchable, biased, and not funny. He even went so far as to suggest that the show should be investigated for its satirical coverage of his presidency. Trump's Twitter rants about comedians revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of humor. He seemed to believe that jokes should always be flattering and that any form of mockery was a sign of disrespect. He failed to grasp that comedy often thrives on pointing out absurdity and hypocrisy, and that as a public figure he was fair game. The irony of it all, a self-proclaimed counterpuncher brought low by jokes. The irony of Donald Trump's sensitivity to humor is that he cultivated an image of himself as a tough-talking, no-nonsense counterpuncher. He prided himself on his ability to dish out insults and take down his opponents with a single cutting remark. Yet, when it came to jokes at his expense, he often crumbled like a stale croissant. This apparent contradiction revealed a deep insecurity at the heart of Trump's persona. For all his bravado and bluster, he was deeply sensitive to criticism and terrified of being seen as weak or foolish. Jokes, with their ability to expose hypocrisy and undermine authority, posed a unique threat to his carefully constructed image. Trump's reactions to comedians also highlighted the dangers of his thin skin. As president, he had access to vast power and resources, and his attempts to use that power to silence his critics were deeply concerning. A free and open society depends on the ability to criticize those in power, even through humor, and Trump's efforts to stifle that criticism were a threat to democratic norms. In the end, Donald Trump's feud with comedians was a microcosm of his presidency. It was a story of ego, insecurity, and a fundamental misunderstanding of the role of humor in a free society. And like so much of Trump's legacy, it was both tragic and undeniably funny.